Hello and welcome to the Program Pod, a production of the RCBC Podcast Network, where we take an RCBC program and do a deep dive from different perspectives within the program. And thanks for joining the conversation with me, your host, Jay Varga. And for today's episode, we're taking a look under the social and behavioral sciences meta major umbrella with an incredible human services success story in the making and one of our finer faculty voices on campus or online in this case here. So joining me today, we have Gia Carosiello. Right, she's looking at me. Just had to get that in there. But who overcame incredible heavy obstacles and sparked her inner light into a 2022 RCBC President's Award winner and one of our commencement speakers, a first-generation student who earned a degree in Human Services, an addiction counselor certificate while achieving memberships in the National Society of Leadership and Success and the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, community volunteer, and now student at Rowan University. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. But it's Gia, not Gina.
Which Gia? Yeah, I knew I was on the way here too. I knew I was going to do that because my sister-in-law is Gina. Their son, my nephew, is Gio, and you're right in the middle of it. And I was like, "Don't say it," and I still said it. So Gia, everybody. And then also coming all the way across the globe from Georgia, yes, the country, we have Dr. Brandon Chapman. Which I'll touch base a little bit on that Georgia conversation in a second. But our RCBC instructor and department chair for social and behavioral science, as he's done fieldwork in Russia, parts of the CIS, Eurasia, Arctic and subarctic Alaska, Trinidad, Tobago, Peru, Ecuador, and has been established in published several journals there in the Social Science Journal and Cultural Survival Quarterly. Did I miss anything there?
That sounds good. So thanks for having me. Thanks, and I'm glad to be with you with you both today.
Yeah.
So it's glad everybody could take the time out of the schedule and allocate time to do this.
Well, especially you. So what time is it in Georgia over there?
It is almost 7 p.m. So it's just my fiance and I just had dinner. So okay. I'm full of Georgian food right now, but that's a whole other topic. So.
Yeah, I haven't had my breakfast yet. So anyway, again, as RCBC embraces a student-first philosophy here, let's start with you, Gia, right? Okay, I had an RCBC student story similar to yours, the very first episode that we have here on the Program Pod, who overcame his own battle of addiction and then went on to be a mechanical engineer at Lockheed Martin. Incredible stuff. So can you share your background story and, what provided that moment of clarity and why you chose Human Services and come to RCBC?
Yeah, so I just celebrated 5 years sober in March.
Awesome.
So before I got there, I was in and out of addiction with alcohol and opioids, and that about took like 4 or 5 years of my life. And then my nephew was born, and I was like secretly still like doing drugs, but like telling everybody I was clean.
Sure.
And, like most people believed me, but a lot of people were like, no. So my brother and my sister-in-law were like, listen, like, we don't really want you around like your nephew, like if you're still getting high, like, so basically being told that I wasn't allowed to see my nephew was me being like, okay, well then I'm going to do this so I can see him. Yep. I have that type of personality where if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to show you that I can do it.
Right,
so
yeah.
I guess that really gave me the jump. I really didn't want to. I was also facing jail time because I was not passing probation. So that was a big factor as well. I went to a place called Epiphany in Florida.
Okay.
And it was very like spiritually based kind of. It like really brought you like out of like your comfort zones and like different like practices they did. The director like went around like the whole like world and like studied all types of different like cultures and everything. And then she like brought it all together. And I think like that's what really helped was to able to like be vulnerable with yourself and like really like understand who you are and like knowing it's okay to be uncomfortable and like, just like being able to like live life that way, like always being like grateful for what you have. And I think that's what really helped because I went to like 2 other rehabs before that. And they were very like, like they taught you about addiction and all kinds of stuff like that. But it was very like steps and like programs and like that sort of way. So I think having
like more
that
traditional.
Yeah, like more traditional. Mm-hmm. I think having that like outside really helped. And that's like what made me remain sober. So once I started like getting everything back, like paying off all my fines and like working really hard, I was like, okay, like I'm doing really good in my life. So like, what can I do to be better? And that's when I decided to go back to school. And I was like looking through all the programs and I'm like, I really do not know what I want to do, but like I know I want to give back in some sort of way.
Sure.
So like human services was like it provided that basically. But in high school, sociology was like one of my favorite classes. And that's why like I'm also getting my associates in that as well, even though I just graduated with my associates in human services.
You taking that here?
Mm-hmm.
RCBC?
Yeah. So that's really what just wanting to give back and, just like giving forward is basically just like what makes me want to go like toward that career. I do want to be an addiction counselor, but it's kind of like an open umbrella to like wherever I can fall, or like I know I'm not probably going to be like one place like super long, kind of just like see where I fall into.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's good to give back because, again, you went through it.
Yeah.
And it's great to see the success story because not many people have that success story. They never get out of that rut. Like we were talking during our prep call, like my brother-in-law lost his battle, right? And I thought when he had his niece, he would get his stuff together. And unfortunately he didn't. I started taking that father figure role on for my second niece, which actually I think I started to prove myself because my niece gave me a Father's Day thing where they said like my favorite uncle or whatever,
awesome.
right? For the Father's Day. I'm like, oh, I'm doing a good job here, but it's a shame, but because addiction's tough. It's tough to beat. So incredible feat for you to be 5 years sober and continue to go on and to give back is even incredible. Look, I'm even getting goosebumps talking about it a little bit because I'm so proud of you for that.
Thank you.
But so during these courses here at RCBC, did you have Professor Dr. Chapman there?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like working or studying under him or going through his courses?
I actually really enjoy his courses. It's can be overwhelming because he just like throws so much interesting information at you. But like that is like literally part of the course. I think how he runs his courses is also extremely helpful for like the non-traditional student because he allows you to like work ahead. He like gives you all the information that you need. So I can literally sit down in one day and read what I need to read and like knock out multiple discussion questions. And I think that is extremely important for people who are working, who have children, who like, I think all of the classes should be like formatted as he formats his classes because it makes it so much easier to better yourself and like to learn, but able to like be a parent, be a full-time student, work full-time. Mm-hmm. It just like puts all of that and like wraps it in a really pretty bow.
How does that make you feel, Professor Chapman?
To hear compliments, deep and genuine compliments like that on multiple aspects of the courses that I put so much into is an overjoy for me. So thank you for that. That's some of the best stuff that I can hear. I would say too about Gia, the multiple reasons why I asked her to come on this podcast with us. What a deep and resilient story Gia has. I mean, coming out of that over a period of years, much of it seems she did under her own volition and herself, and that is a testament to what anybody struggling with such things out there, what they can do. And I think Gia sort of spoke to maybe my efficiency in running my courses. How efficient is Gia with her time? She has done an associate's in human services already. She is stacking with that an associate's in sociology, also here with us, RCBC. And on top of that, she's also pursuing a program at the 4-year Rowan University. That's just, getting the most out of the time put into the resources put into something. And that's an amazing story as well. So Gia is in multiple respects a model student, whether we're talking about a traditional age or a non-traditional age student. So the respect and the feeling is mutual.
And was it actually last week the first time you got to see each other face to face with your courses too, or
no? So we didn't formally meet, but I know we saw each other at the award ceremony.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And then I was able to see Gia's graduation speech online because I was faculty at a different part of our ceremonies, and that was the first time I had really heard more personally about her life history and was very much touched and moved by it.
And speaking of that, Gia, would you ever think that you would become like the President's Award winner and speaking to the RCBC class of 2022 at the commencement from where you work just a couple of years ago?
Not at all.
Right.
No. High school, I wasn't a horrible student, but it was like B's and C's. I think I never pushed myself further. I think because growing up, like people were always like, oh, like, you're lucky you're pretty. Like, you know, like they kind of just were like, oh, like you may not have the smarts, but like, you know, the looks are okay for you.
So what's been your favorite part then, you know, going through all this so far?
I think the commencement speech, just because my first semester? My second semester, I did public speaking, and that was really rough. Like,
what was so rough about it?
It was like, my face would get real red. I was like stuttering over my words. Like, I just like was not like content in anything that like any of my speeches. And I think like I passed because he felt bad for me, my professor, because he was like,
nice
all right, she is trying and like she has all her work done. She just can't really get it out.
Yeah.
So like that
but
was
Gia, look what you're doing now.
Right.
You spoke at a graduation. You're on, a podcast. I mean, you're doing it. You're doing it very well now. So.
Yeah. I think that's why I said like the commencement is like my biggest takeaway from all of this, because I was able to get on that stage in front of everybody and just like do my speech like really good.
Yeah.
Like incredible. I was really confident when I was up there, and it felt good and like empowering, and I was like, look where you are. Like, look where you are, but also like look where you came from. That's
an incredible story. It continues on. That's why I wanted to have you on the show to show people that like, you can hit kind of rock bottom and still, as long as you push yourself and you have that drive, and that's something that you're inspiring. Is that what you're telling, some of your peers now, or your people that you see? I mean, do you have friends going through this at all? Like a certain addiction or
yeah, there's like certain people. I did an internship at Hope Sheds Light in Toms River.
Okay.
They put me through their recovery coach, like program. So I do have that. So like, I'm also like, I do help people who are still like trying to figure out like how to get clean, like when, and like, just like talk to them and just be there for them. Like support is the biggest thing.
Absolutely.
Support is the biggest thing, I think, for anybody, but especially during addiction, because a lot of people lose friends and family members through that. And like, we do it to ourselves, but like it happens. But you need someone to at least be there who will kind of like give you that push, like you can do this. Like, even though you don't believe in yourself right now, you have at least me who does. So like eventually you will get there as well.
Yeah. And again, your work shows for it, and so you got straight A's too.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're way too smart for me now. Even going from there, I want to learn. But as Brandon was saying too, is like that balance of like work life and well, not so much work, but educational work, right? But I saw that you're still volunteering with the soup kitchen in Camden. You still doing that, or?
Yeah, that's mostly like the holiday thing. Like I'll do like the Thanksgiving drives and all the stuff for there.
So why is the volunteering stuff important to you?
Volunteering is important for me because it's just part of giving back. I've been there in Camden on the streets. Like, technically, I always had like a roof over my head, whether if it was like bouncing back from like my mom's house to my dad's house, like whoever could stand to kind of look at me at that period of time. But I spent like my majority of being in Camden. So just being able to help families, at least like there, and like other people who are struggling as well. It's kind of like roots for me, I guess.
Okay. That's good stuff. But we do have another guest on the show. We want to get to him, so I can talk to you all the time and be like, well, thanks, Professor Chapman, coming on. Appreciate it. But I do want to shift the perspective over to the faculty side now, as you do bring in Dr. Chapman, Brandon, as we like to call him as well. Thanks for, again, coming on the show. But when I'm asking, some faculty members, because I still try to understand the programs and dynamics under the meta majors here at RCBC, everyone in liberal arts and Laurel Hall here kept saying, when I said I was going to bring up social and behavioral sciences, and he said, Brandon, I'm like, which one's Brandon? They're like, looks like Shaggy a little bit. And I'm like, oh, I know him. I know Dr. Brandon Chapman, because I always wanted to know where he was, because I see you pull up. And but I got to work with you once more during the Facebook town hall, and I thought, yes, you would be a great person to bring on the show. So for starters, Brandon, what are some of the classes you teach here at RCBC?
I do a variety. I'm actually I'm department chair of anthropology and sociology. So I do about half anthropology, which we run one anthropology course right now, which is Intro to Cultural Anthropology. That's Anthropology 1 and 2. And it gets a lot of folks looking for gen ed diversity, gen ed requirements sort of course. It meets that requirement. So I love that course because you get a whole smattering of students from across the college, many different majors. And so it's a wonderful way to get a good sample of just all the different types of students. Any way you could describe different students on campus, I get a variety in that course. I also do sociology courses, Principles of Sociology, the Social 101, which is the intro course, and then also Social Problems, which is Social 201, an upper division sociology course. So those are my classes. So both online and in person. Okay. And I should say too, going back to Gia's comment, we run 14, 15-week semesters. We also have in the summer like 7 and 10-week semesters, these sorts of things, different courses. I like to put all of my materials online on these online courses right at the beginning of a semester, just because why should a student be hindered from looking ahead at various materials throughout a semester? If I very much am a proponent of autodidactism, the ability for people to not only learn from an instructor, but also self-learn and self-pace themselves a little bit. So, I don't necessarily see, that's speaking back to the previous point, that was made earlier, why I like to put, basically all of my course up right at the start of a term, because, different people work at different paces. And I don't want to limit students to, be paced at my own pace. I'd like them to be able to pace themselves a little bit if they feel they have the ability to do so.
And it showed it worked for you right there, Gia, right?
Yeah.
So you get your master of
I'm glad some students like it. So
yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to speak to that previously.
So you get your Master of Social Science from Utah State University. You followed by your Doctor of Philosophy from Washington State University. How does one end up here on Mount Laurel?
Well, so I've been very fortunate to live in many parts of the United States and also travel internationally and do field work internationally in many different places. I've had a somewhat varied career, but the consistent part of all of that is I've been a social scientist, an anthropologist, and sociologist for my entire adult life, and I've been very fortunate to be able to do that. Not everybody that pursues a PhD actually ends up working professionally in the field, certainly not always as faculty. To make it short, I'm from the Midwest originally. I moved out west. I wanted a little bit of an adventure. I liked the programs out there, these various universities I was at. I eventually finished my PhD. I went up and lived in Alaska through most of my 30s for 8 years. Had a ton of adventures up there. Alaska in itself is an adventure. Lived all over the state. I actually did some field work in the Arctic with a lot of different Native American groups up there. And I was faculty at University of Alaska, an extension campus there for a while. And I put out my CV, my academic resume, to some various colleges back in 2019. And I got an online interview and an offer from RCBC. Had an offer at another place. I decided to come here, and I am thrilled that I came here. I love Jersey. I love Rowan. The students are such a diverse. I'm so lucky. We all are lucky. Should feel lucky to live in such a intensely diverse place, one of the most diverse places in the United States. People from all over the world here, and at RCBC we have such a wonderful representation of the world.
Yes, we do.
I get students from the Caribbean, from sub-Saharan Africa, from the Middle East, from parts of Europe, from all over the globe, and the students have are such a wonderful variety, and I have very nice, wonderful colleagues here, and so I've been able to pursue what I want here as a faculty member, with the students, and so I'm thrilled to be at Rowan. So Jersey brought me here. I'm happy to be here, and I'm ending my third year and entering my fourth. So I'm going to be here probably the rest of my career. I'm very excited about that.
How's the pace of life compared from Alaska to here?
Fast. People talk fast. People drive fast.
Yeah.
I remember when I came. So I lived in a small town, a small cruise ship tourist town in Alaska. That's where I was teaching at a small campus there, mostly online. Actually, we had some in-person students, and you know, 45 miles an hour was the fastest you could drive because the roads didn't connect out to the rest of the highways that connected to the contiguous United States. Many Alaskan towns are like that. So when I got here, I mean, I grew up in Illinois. I'd obviously lived in the lower 48 for much of my life. I was holding the wheel, like at 10 and 2, which I almost never do because I was like gritting my teeth because I'd been out of traffic for so long. When people were on my bumper all of a sudden all the time, I was like, I probably looked like an old scared man, driving around. But anyway, but it is an interesting cultural, social science sort of thing. Actually, there are a lot of cultural differences between the East Coast and West Coast, and that stereotype that East Coast is more argumentative and faster is not necessarily a stereotype. There are some, at least from my own years of observations now, some some validities there. So yes, if I can tell one more quick story.
Absolutely, no.
My first semester of courses, I had an older student that would come after class and talk to me a little bit. She was doing good in the course. We just wanted to exceed even more and discuss some of the topics. And I had to actually ask her to slow down her pace of speaking because I was not used to hearing sort of the New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia fast pace of speak. Because I work with Alaska Natives a lot, and especially Native Americans tend to speak quite slowly. Their oration of speech can sometimes be really paced slow, and so I had to get used to actually hearing English spoken at a quick pace, if you will. Since moving here.
But so now, not West Coast, not East Coast, but you're all the way out in Georgia, the country itself. So what are you doing over there? Why are you out there for the summer?
Well, both travel and a little bit of research too. I mean, I like to combine both. Okay. My fiance and my fiance is actually a Russian national from Russia. She's actually the first person I've ever met that's actually traveled more than I have, and so I had to ask her to marry me. So so we try to travel internationally as much as we can. And I'm personally very fortunate because I have a faculty schedule that allows me summertime away physically from campus to be able to travel for extended periods. And I've tried to take advantage of that, not only through just experiencing many other parts of the world, but also doing forms of research. I do a lot of videos actually, and I bring them into my anthropology courses. I'm actually redesigning one of my anthropology and some of my sociology courses this summer, attempting to bring a lot more of my own materials from my travels into those courses. So I research how culture affects political opinion and national politics, and so I've done research in parts of Eurasia, especially Russia, but I'm looking at Georgia now too as a potential field site to look at how political expression, political opinion, how people perceive of government and their politics in their nation, how that's affected by different sort of cultural circumstances and these sorts of things. So, which is some things that anthropologists sometimes study. So anyway, we're having a wonderful time here and exploring some of the history, some of the sites, and the food and the music and things that one would do when traveling abroad. And
that sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, it does.
I want to go over there. I was talking about eating the Georgian food and stuff. And you already answered my own question. I was going to follow up about what types of research. But my boss, Greg Volpe, the executive director here on strategic marketing communications at RCBC, said he was telling me. First of all, he said thank you for answering all these email responses. Throughout the time, because sometimes faculty, when it's summertime, they kind of just want to decompress a little bit, but you've been super responsive, and he thanked you for that. But also said something about you're working with or part of Ukraine, or come back from Ukraine, from part of an organization that's trying to encourage countries maybe embracing neurodiverse policies or something like that. Not that we have to dive deep into that. I mean, you can. I just kind of wanted.
Well, actually, that's actually somebody else. That's going to be a likely guest on a series that I host. as part of a grant, I have a federal grant with the college, and as part of that federal grant recently, that's been promoting and developing global studies as a set of courses here at RCBC. I've also created and host a series called the RCBC Global Studies Lecture Series.
Okay.
I've been very fortunate to be able to bring in a lot of prominent scholars from around the country on various issues of especially international political importance. And a likely future guest on probably an event in the fall 2022 part of the series will be I don't want to divulge his name, but he's actually he's a neurologist in the region who actually volunteers in what you just spoke about, Jay, which is the working with neurodiverse people in Ukraine. And I believe I'm not sure of the whole story yet, but advocating for their needs and such. And so we are fortunate to have good neurological care in the United States. That is not always the case in a lot of other countries. A lot of neurodiverse people are automatically institutionalized, if you will, in some cases not necessarily regardless of their neurological condition. And so this is something that we'll likely be talking about on an episode of the Global Studies Lecture Series this fall. So
awesome.
So yes.
Awesome. So did you go to Ukraine at all while you're out there? Or
I've been to Ukraine. Yes, I've been to Ukraine twice before. Back that would be 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Okay,
I've been to Kiev. I've been to Crimea, and I've been to Lviv. So Lviv is in the west near Poland. Kiev is the capital and center, and Crimea is the part that was annexed by Russia back in 2014. I was actually in Crimea that was about a month before the 2014 annexation occurred. So I was there right before that happened.
Did you know what you were signing up for? That your professor had this much background and diversity and
I did not.
And cultural experience?
I did not, but I think not
it sounds like it now
right away.
Yeah.
But eventually, when you hear his lectures and everything, he does incorporate a lot of where he's been and what he's done, which I think is really amazing, because some professors you don't even know what they their other life, you know what I mean? They're just your professor here and in this course, but he brings that all to you, which is so amazing.
Yeah, I think it's incredible what you do provide for the students here, Brandon, to get that background. And I think we're truly honored to have you here as an instructor at RCBC. Case shows in point here with Gia as well, and what she's been doing, and just talking to you guys. So it's kind of bringing me back, but for someone that's maybe looking to get into this field, whether it's a high school prospective student of such, first, Brandon, I'll touch on you. What are some of the general courses and maybe some of the topics covered? I know we skimmed over it a little bit earlier, but if someone's kind of looking to get into this a little bit now, maybe a career path, I guess it feels like this umbrella gets wider as I talk to you guys even further.
Sure. Sociology as a discipline is a broad, meaning wide breadth discipline. We cover a broad array of topics. Sociology, if I can summarize it in a sentence or two, we look at various demographic groups, meaning breaking down people by age, education level, ethnicity, all these different social indicators that you could categorize somebody by. And we look at how various groups then come together and form and live in and maintain a society. That could be the United States, that could be another society. We usually think of a society as a national level thing, but there you go. And how those individuals and people in those groups, build organizations, institutions, culture, and these sorts of, laws and rules and norms of how to build and maintain a society. And so that covers naturally a lot of different topics, right? And this is hopefully the exciting thing about sociology. We look at things like ethnic relations and immigration. We look at things like educational attainment. Among different groups, and how that affects people's income levels and things like that. We look at poverty and inequality. We look at crime. We look at social problems like suicide and alcoholism and drug addiction and these sorts of things. This is why, for example, a lot of sociology people looking to get into counseling, as Gia has been looking at, end up taking sociology courses and even a sociology major. It's very appropriate for that sort of thing. So we look at this broad array of social problems and societal elements, if you will, sectors of society. And we try to do, I think, sort of that from two different avenues. We do it from looking at broad trends statistically, what's going on with crime, what's going on with immigration, what's going on with family structure, what's going on with all these different things. So we look at the big picture, if you will. And then we look at case studies, or what we call ethnography, meaning interviews, case studies that look at individuals that represent those larger trends, if you understand what I'm saying. So it gives us sort of the background and the stories and the specifics of what make up those larger trends of society. And so for somebody, so this, speaks to a lot of different potential avenues of career path. Somebody interested in law, for example, or going into paralegal, that sort of profession. We look at, with all these different parts of society, the laws and the rules that go into, understanding these things. So for pre-law students or for paralegal students, this is an excellent major. If you want to understand, people's backgrounds and, how that can relate to people's experience with social problems, counseling, that speaks to sort of Gia's path, if you will. So if you want to get into some sort of counseling, drug, alcohol, psychological, other forms of counseling, that sociology is very appropriate for that. If you wanted to get into sort of social research, there's a lot of governmental organizations that do like demographic research, for either city, county level government, that sort of stuff, state level government. Sociology is very appropriate for that. If you want to get into, business, for example, understanding different cultural backgrounds and how that relates to how people, think about the products they buy or consume or that sort of stuff. There's a lot of sociological research that looks at that. So, I mean, there's we could go on and on with a lot of different potential, jobs and sort of careers, if you will. So it's a very malleable, a very flexible, and a very broad, sort of set of courses and a major. And so for a student that is looking at sociology at RCBC as a potential, set of courses or an associate's degree, you would take a 101, that's the intro, that's the principles of sociology, that's your broad introduction to these different topic areas. Then you choose 3 courses from the list of the rest of our upper division courses. So that would be, you could, take a social problems course. We offer that looks more at policy and those sort of, problems of society and how policy affects that. I think Gia actually took that course a few years ago, the 201. We have marriage and family, Soc 205, which looks at family structure and how that affects wealth creation, poverty, forms of gender expression, divorce, these sorts of things. We look at then we have a course, minority groups, or what is also sometimes called race and ethnicity. That's Soc 210. That looks at the history of ethnic relations in the United States, especially discrimination, history of legal, precedent and statute, looking at how that affects different ethnic groups. And we have Intro to Women's Studies, Soc 209. And so we have a variety of different things covering these different, specializing in these topic areas that I mentioned, I believe earlier, that you can then take those topic areas into these various courses and get a little more specialized. And they transfer very well to the our various 4 years in the region as well. So
right, including Rowan University,
Yeah.
where G is at, where I graduated from as well. But
yes.
But it does sound like, too, even if it's not a specific major, someone wants to get into, like, whether, in sociology or just having some of these courses, I think, even as an elective, kind of helps broaden, your perspective and your view, I would think, and kind of just growing as a person and as an academic student. But I do want to shift the course just a little bit before we kind of wrap it up. And it's something I was kind of teasing a little bit last week. It's something I'm kind of starting to add new to the show here because recently I announced that I'm going to be a dad and I have a baby girl on the way, and I had to work on some.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I have been working on some dad jokes. Okay. And we were talking about it. We said, we weren't sure if we're going to be able to find like some kind of behavioral sciences or social behavioral sciences dad jokes. And yes, I stole these from the internet, so I didn't write these. All right. So if they're bad, you can blame the internet. If they're good, you can give me credit for writing them. So I'll put it out there and everyone can answer. What do you call an academic that apologizes all the time?
I have no idea.
An anthropologist.
Oh,
all right. There it is.
that is. I have been an anthropologist 20 years and I've never heard that.
I figured you were going to. I thought you were going to get that one right away.
That is a genuinely good joke. Thanks, internet.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
That's excellent.
So that's one I think. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is SOS or psych. Could be both. But what's a sleeping brain's favorite musical group? No crickets. I need a little cricket button in here somewhere. REM. Yeah.
REM was my band growing up. I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yep, I'm right there with you. So we both, had that.
I went through the Michael Stipe, head shaving phase.
I did the whole bowl cut or whatever. You shave the sides and you flop the hair over or whatever, the whole server thing or skater thing.
I believe he was the first person to really bring that into style, if I remember correctly. That was not really much of a popular thing back in before 94, whenever that year was, and then he kind of popularized what became a popular thing: men shaving their heads.
Yeah, no, it was all big hair and a bunch of hairspray. Then it was long curly hair, and then it was
no hair.
Everything. Yeah, and then no hair, pretty much. All right, one more.
Whatever site or sites you are getting these jokes from, you need to keep them a secret because they're good, and I think you need exclusivity on this.
Okay.
On this corner of the market, if you will.
Well, it's starting to work, and I said, as I try to build this show, I'd like having its own little dynamic and a little fun, at the end here. It's like one more. So why did the anthropologist? Here's another anthropologist question. Why did the anthropologist eat a lot of yogurt? So he could understand the culture. Oh.
Man, these are great.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, woo. No. So
and you have the laugh track.
Yeah.
If I commended Gia I want to commend you, Jay, for I've never heard actual good anthropologist jokes. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, I may quote that material a little bit.
You can go ahead. Yeah, you can go ahead and use it. I definitely thought for sure the academic apologizing one would have heard that one, but I was like, I'll just throw this one out there in case he gets it, and then try to squeeze some of them in there. So, but don't worry, I have other ones in there where I'm like, if they don't work out, right? I got to work on some of these
sound effects.
Yeah, I got to start working on some of these soundboards and stuff too. So, but that's pretty much going to wrap it up. However, though, before I do let both of you go, and I know it's almost bedtime for you over there, Brandon. Maybe depending on how late you want to stay up. But I know, Gia, is there anything that you would like to say to someone telling that maybe battling their own addictions or know someone who is looking to turn things around? An inspirational message. You can even kind of recite a little bit from your commencement speech or something like that.
Yeah, I just like to put out there that even though you may not believe in yourself right away, eventually it will get to that point. And a lot of times when you're in addiction, you don't love yourself at all. So it takes a lot of work and to eventually get that way, but you will be able to love yourself again. It is just a lot of work on yourself, and you have to be willing to take the criticism, take all the feedback, and just really reel it in and really find who you are and who you truly want to be. And it's starting to go away, but addiction has a lot of stigmatism towards it, and we're all looked at like bad people or raised poorly or but we all come from so many different backgrounds, so not all of us were raised poorly, or you know what I mean. So it has nothing to do with that. It's just addiction is a terrible disease, and it will take control of your whole entire life. But as long as you fight the hardest, basically, you probably will ever have to fight in your life, you will be able to overcome it.
Yeah, and again, you're a shining example of that. You case in point, and again, congrats on your sobriety and continued sobriety and what you're doing. I think you're doing amazing work on what you're going to be doing. You're going to be touching many other lives, and I think we're pretty proud of you to be here through come through the RCBC program and have nothing but great expectations for you. So
thank you, and thank you for allowing me to be on your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brandon, was there anything you'd like to say to some students that may be looking to get in this type of study, or anything you want to plug, or jokes?
I think sociology is a wonderful potential major for a lot of different students of a lot of different backgrounds. I think it's one of those things. If a lot of college students can be undecided, and it's very common for students to change majors as they go along. If you feel you have maybe multiple paths that you may want to go along, if you're very much interested in how, some specific, avenue within society, try a sociology course. I think you'd be pleasantly surprised at, the variety of things that you can learn from a lot of different perspectives that you may not get in some other disciplines traditionally. So go for it. We are welcoming. So.
I think just to piggyback off Dr. Chapman a little bit, I think no matter what you want to do in life, taking sociology is extremely important.
Yes.
Because it allows you to grow and like respect others and their culture and like know like how to interact with people basically, and just like all respect.
Yeah.
So I think it's a huge thing,
especially in the social media world where it's too easy to kind of have the information that's out there and people just kind of gravitate towards that. I think this is what I'm expected to think, or this is what my group hears my think and stuff. But yes.
And you know what? Americans are exceptional in many ways, but America is also, Americans, generally speaking, can be a little bit insulated from the world in some respects. And I think it's one of my, as a cultural anthropologist too, one of my broad goals to just introduce a lot of different cultures to people. And, it's I don't know. I mean, I know some high school students in the region take world cultures or something like that, sometimes as an elective. That is an elective offered, I believe, at some of our area high schools, and that's wonderful. But it's not, it's not always the case that high school, especially our high school students, come in with necessarily as much knowledge of the world as maybe they should. And so taking a sociology or even an anthropology course is one of the better ways that one can achieve that sort of cross-cultural knowledge, as Gia is so eloquently describing.
I think both of you are eloquently describing it. Not so much me, but I'm here just to kind of facilitate and have you guys on the show. And, again, thank you for sharing your stories. As again, that's going to do it pretty much for this episode of the Program Pod, and hope you enjoyed today's show. As I want to thank our guest again today for bringing us a little more insight into the social and behavioral sciences program. Met a major here at RCBC. Our guest once again, Gia Carosiello, our little student here, a little recent graduate in Human Services at RCBC, well on her way to many other degrees through Rowan University. And of course, Dr. Brandon Chapman, RCBC instructor and Department Chair of Social and Behavioral Science. So I am Jay Varga, and if you want to learn more about RCBC's programs, you can visit rcbc.edu. And if you want to find out about other RCBC podcasts we have, like the Baroness podcast, well, you can go ahead and check us out at rcbc.edu/podcast, and be sure to subscribe to the Program Pod wherever you get your podcast. So till next time, thanks for listening, and thank you guys for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.